The great hall of the Galactic Hegemony stretched higher than most mountains. Crystal walls caught the light of a dozen stars, making rainbow patterns dance across the floor. In this place, the most powerful beings in the galaxy gathered to decide the fate of worlds. Supreme Chancellor Veltar stood at the center of the hall. His body was made of living crystal that sang with each movement. Around him sat representatives from 12 ancient species. Each race had ruled the stars for thousands of years. They believed they knew everything about war, peace, and power. Today they talked about humans. "These creatures are getting too bold," said Admiral Kethmos. His insect-like head clicked as he spoke. Behind him, 1,000 drone minds shared his thoughts. "They refuse to pay our taxes. They ignore our laws. They take systems without asking permission." Veltar's crystal body flashed with annoyance. "Humans have been in space for only 200 years. We have ruled for 10,000. How dare they think they can challenge us?" A hologram appeared in the center of the hall. It showed human colonies spreading across space like a disease. Red dots marked over 300 human worlds. Each year more appeared. "Look at how fast they breed," hissed Commander Seth of the Reptilian Empire. "They multiply like insects. Soon they will want more systems, more resources, more power." "They are primitives," laughed General Zornak, his forearms waving dismissively. "Their ships still burn chemical fuel. Their weapons shoot metal bullets. They have no real technology." The other representatives joined in the laughter. The sound echoed through the crystal hall like breaking glass. "I met one of their diplomats last cycle," said Counselor Mira of the Ethereal Collective. Her ghostly form shimmered as she spoke. "He demanded equal representation in our council. Equal votes on trade agreements. Can you imagine?" More laughter filled the hall. The idea seemed impossible to them. Humans were babies compared to their ancient civilizations. Veltar raised his hand for silence. The human problem must be solved. They refused to understand their place in the natural order. They must be taught respect. "War?" asked Admiral Kethmos, his compound eyes gleaming. "Not war," Veltar corrected. "Correction, a lesson. We do not need to destroy them. We only need to show them our power." The Chancellor walked to a control panel. His crystal fingers danced over the surface. Another hologram appeared showing the human homeworld called Earth. It looked small and blue, surrounded by primitive space stations. "One demonstration fleet should be enough," Veltar announced. 500 ships. Enough to overwhelm their defenses, but not enough to wipe them out completely. "When they see our power, they will surrender." "Only 500? questioned General Zornak. "That seems like too many for such primitives." Veltar's crystal body pulsed with amusement. "You are right. But we must appear generous. We will give them a chance to surrender before we destroy their orbital defenses. Perhaps we will only need to destroy half their fleet to make our point." The representatives nodded in agreement. This seemed wise to them. Show enough force to prove superiority, but not so much that it looked like real warfare. "I volunteer my ships," said Admiral Kethmos. "My drone fighters can disable their vessels without killing too many humans. We want them alive to serve us." "Excellent," Veltar agreed. "Kethmos will lead the demonstration fleet. Standard procedure. Jump into their system. Demand surrender. Destroy a few ships to show we are serious. Accept their submission." Counselor Mira raised a concern. "What if they refuse to surrender?" The hall erupted in laughter again. The idea seemed ridiculous to these ancient beings. "Refuse?" wheezed General Zornak, holding his 4 sides. "They have 89 ships in their entire fleet. We will have 500. Their weapons cannot even scratch our shields. What choice will they have?" "The humans are stubborn," admitted Veltar. "But they are not stupid. When they see our ships appear in their sky, they will understand. No species has ever challenged the hegemony and survived." The vote was unanimous. 500 ships would travel to the human homeworld. The fleet would demonstrate hegemony power. The humans would surrender. Order would be restored. As the representatives prepared to leave, they shared stories about other young species they had corrected over the millennia. The pattern was always the same. Show overwhelming force. Accept surrender. Add another species to the hegemony ranks. "How long do you think it will take?" asked Commander Seth. 3 days, predicted Admiral Kethmos. 1 day to arrive. 1 day to destroy their orbital defenses. 1 day to accept their surrender documents. "I say 2 days, laughed General Zornak. "These humans will surrender the moment they see our ships." Veltar watched the representatives file out of the Great Hall. Soon the galaxy would have peace again. The humans would learn their place. The natural order would continue. He activated his personal communicator and sent orders to the military yards. 500 ships, the newest vessels with the best weapons, phase technology that could pass through solid matter, gravity weapons that could tear apart planets, shields that had never been broken. The fleet would also carry occupation forces. Human worlds would need new governors. Human resources would need proper management. Human populations would need to learn hegemony law, but Veltar was merciful. The humans would be allowed to keep their primitive culture. They could worship their strange gods and speak their rough languages. As long as they obeyed hegemony rule, they could live peaceful lives. In his crystal mind, Veltar imagined the human leaders signing surrender documents. They would probably cry with relief that the hegemony was so generous. Other young species had been completely destroyed for less defiance. 3 days later, Admiral Kethmo stood on the bridge of his flagship. Around him, 500 hegemony vessels prepared for the jump to human space. The fleet stretched across space like a metal moon. "All ships report ready," announced his tactical officer. "Begin the jump," ordered Kethmos. "Time to teach these humans some manners." The fleet vanished in a flash of twisted space-time. Behind them, the representatives of the hegemony continued their normal business. Some placed bets on how quickly the humans would surrender. Others planned victory celebrations. None of them imagined that in 3 days the galaxy would never be the same again. None of them could picture Admiral Kethmos sending a desperate final message before his flagship exploded in nuclear fire. None of them believed that 500 ships might not be enough. They were ancient. They were powerful. They had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. They were about to discover that humans played by different rules. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the command center of Solar Defense Station Alpha. The massive room buzzed with activity as officers ran between computer terminals. Red warning lights flashed across every screen. The message was clear. Something big was coming. "Long-range sensors are picking up massive energy signatures," reported Lieutenant Jackson, his voice tight with worry. "They're still 3 days out, but the computer estimates 500 ships minimum." Sarah felt her stomach drop. The entire human fleet had only 89 vessels. Most were converted mining ships and cargo haulers fitted with whatever weapons they could manage. Against 500 alien warships, they might as well throw rocks. "Any response to our communication attempts?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. "Nothing, Admiral. They're ignoring every frequency we try, but we did intercept some of their internal communications. The translation computer is having trouble, but it sounds like they're calling this a demonstration fleet." Sarah laughed bitterly. 500 ships for a demonstration. It showed exactly what the aliens thought of human capabilities. Dr. Marcus Webb rushed into the command center carrying a tablet full of calculations. His gray hair was messy and his lab coat was stained with coffee. He had been working for 72 hours straight. "Admiral, I think I found something," he said breathlessly. "The alien technology we captured from that crashed scout ship last year. I've been studying the phase generator. Can we build weapons that can hurt them?" Sarah asked. Marcus shook his head. "Not exactly, but I found something interesting. Their phase technology works by shifting matter between dimensions. It's incredibly advanced, but it has a weakness. The quantum frequency they use creates a resonance pattern. Speak simple English, Doctor." "Think of it like a musical note," Marcus explained. "Their ships vibrate at a specific frequency to phase through solid matter. But if we can create the exact opposite frequency, we can trap them between dimensions." Sarah felt a spark of hope. "How many bombs can you build?" "With our current resources, maybe 50 quantum resonance devices. But they're not really bombs. They won't destroy the ships. They'll just freeze them." "Frozen ships can't shoot back," Sarah said grimly. "How long do you need?" 36 hours minimum. "But Admiral, there's something else. The aliens are broadcasting on open channels. They expect us to surrender without a fight." Sarah pulled up the intercepted alien communications on her screen. The translation was rough, but the meaning was clear. The alien commander expected total human surrender within hours of arrival. He was already planning victory celebrations. "They think we're going to roll over like trained dogs," Sarah muttered. She opened a channel to all human ships and stations throughout the solar system. Faces appeared on her screen. Captain Martinez on the heavy cruiser Defiance, Commander Okafor on the mining platform Titan Base, Captain Singh on the converted cargo hauler New Mumbai, dozens of others. Everyone is seeing the same sensor readings, Sarah began. 500 alien ships are coming to demand our surrender. They expect us to give up without a fight. Some of the faces on screen looked terrified. Others looked angry. All of them looked determined. I won't lie to anyone, Sarah continued. We're outgunned and outnumbered. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. By every logical calculation, we should surrender. She paused and looked directly into the camera. But we're human. We don't surrender. Not to bullies. Not to anyone who thinks they can threaten our families and homes. Captain Martinez spoke first. What are your orders, Admiral? We fight. Dr. Webb has a weapon that might level the playing field. Every ship that can carry his quantum devices will get them. The rest of you will provide cover and distraction. And if the weapons don't work? Asked Commander Okafor. Sarah's voice was steel. Then we ram their ships with ours. We make them pay for every meter of space. We show them that humans are not prey. The next 36 hours passed in a blur of desperate activity. Shipyards worked around the clock to modify fighter craft for Webb's quantum devices. Families evacuated to hidden bases in the asteroid belt. Soldiers said goodbye to loved ones. Dr. Webb and his team built 53 quantum resonance devices. Each one was the size of a torpedo and packed with exotic matter that hurt to look at directly. The devices were loaded onto the fastest human fighters available. Remember, Webb told the pilots, you have to get within 50 meters of the alien ships for the devices to work. The resonance field has a very short range. The pilots nodded grimly. 50 meters was suicide range against ships with advanced weapons. On the second day, human listening posts detected alien communications growing stronger. The fleet was almost here. Sarah gathered her senior officers for a final briefing. They expect us to surrender the moment they arrive, she said. Their communications suggest they plan to destroy a few orbital platforms to make their point, then wait for us to give up. What if we actually contacted them? Suggested Commander Park. Tried to negotiate? Sarah shook her head. I've read their intercepted messages. They're not here to negotiate. They're here to put us in our place, to show the galaxy what happens when you challenge their authority. She activated the main communication system and began recording a message. Her words would be broadcast to the approaching alien fleet. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Solar Defense Force, she said calmly. You are approaching human space with a hostile fleet. We do not recognize your authority over our systems. We will not surrender our worlds or our freedom. She paused, thinking of her daughter on Mars colony, thinking of her parents buried on Earth, thinking of every human child who deserved to grow up free. You want to test human resolve? Come and try. One fleet can't stop us. The message was transmitted on all frequencies. Within hours, human intelligence intercepted the alien response. The translation was rough, but the tone was clear. Laughter. The aliens thought her message was amusing. They found human defiance entertaining. Some of their communications compared humans to small animals trying to scare away predators. On the third day, the alien fleet arrived. Sarah watched from the command center as 500 alien ships materialized at the edge of the solar system. They were beautiful and terrible, ships that looked like floating crystals, others shaped like giant insects, some that seemed to be made of pure energy. The human fleet looked pathetic in comparison. 89 ships made of steel and determination. Most still had corporate logos painted on their hulls from their previous lives as cargo haulers. The alien commander sent his ultimatum. Primitive humans. You will surrender immediately. Resistance is futile. You have 1 hour to respond. Sarah opened a channel to all human forces. This is Admiral Chen. They want an answer in 1 hour. I'll give them one now. She switched to the alien frequency and spoke clearly. This is our answer. Come and take our worlds if you can. The alien response came in the form of weapons fire. Gravity beams struck the outer defense platforms, tearing them apart like paper. Human shields collapsed instantly. Return fire bounced harmlessly off alien hulls. The Battle of Sol had begun. As the first human ships exploded in balls of fire, Sarah gave the order that would change everything. Release the quantum fighters. Show them what humans can do. 53 small craft screamed toward the alien fleet, carrying weapons that shouldn't exist and pilots who refused to surrender. Admiral Kethmos watched from his flagship as human orbital platforms exploded under hegemony fire. The primitive structures crumbled like sand castles. Human return fire sparked harmlessly against his ship's shields. As expected, he told his tactical officer, their weapons are completely useless. Begin targeting their largest ships. Destroy enough to make our point, then wait for their surrender. The hegemony fleet spread across space in perfect formation. 500 ships arranged in attack groups, each one more powerful than the entire human fleet. Gravity cannons tore through human vessels like they were made of paper. Phase torpedoes passed through human shields as if they didn't exist. Kethmos allowed himself to feel satisfied. The demonstration was proceeding exactly as planned. Soon the humans would realize their situation was hopeless. They would surrender and join the hegemony as servants. "Admiral," reported his sensor officer, detecting small craft approaching from the human fleet. 53 vessels. Fighter class. Kethmos clicked his mandibles in amusement. Fighters? Against our fleet? These humans are even more primitive than we thought. Ignore them. They cannot possibly threaten us. The human fighters raced through the battle zone, dodging gravity beams and phase torpedoes. Kethmos watched with the detached interest of a scientist observing insects. The small craft were fast, he admitted, but speed meant nothing against superior technology. Then the first quantum resonance device detonated. Fighter craft designation Lightning screamed toward the hegemony cruiser Void Hunter. The alien ship's defensive systems tracked the tiny vessel, but didn't consider it a threat. The fighter was destroyed by point defense lasers just 50 meters from the cruiser's hull. But Dr. Webb's quantum device survived the explosion. The resonance field expanded in a sphere of twisted space-time. It touched the Void Hunter's phase generators and created a feedback loop that the alien engineers had never imagined possible. The cruiser's dimensional phasing systems locked in an impossible configuration. For a moment, the Void Hunter existed in 2 dimensions simultaneously. Its hull became translucent, caught between realities. Then the ship froze completely, trapped in a quantum cage of its own making. "What happened to the Void Hunter?" demanded Kethmos. His sensor readings made no sense. The cruiser still existed, but it wasn't responding to communications. It hung in space like a ghost ship. "Unknown, Admiral. The ship appears to be frozen somehow. All systems have stopped functioning." Before Kethmos could process this information, more human fighters reached their targets. Quantum resonance devices detonated against 12 more hegemony ships. Each explosion created the same impossible result. Alien vessels trapped between dimensions, their advanced technology turned against them. "This is impossible," Kethmos hissed. "How are they doing this? Their technology is primitive." His tactical officer's voice was strained with confusion. "Admiral, we're detecting massive energy signatures throughout the solar system. The humans have hidden weapons platforms in the asteroid belt, on the moons, inside what we thought were dead space rocks." Suddenly, space around the hegemony fleet erupted with weapons fire. Mass drivers hidden in asteroids launched tungsten rods at incredible velocity. Missile platforms disguised as space debris revealed themselves and fired nuclear warheads. Laser arrays built into the dark side of planets opened fire from impossible angles. The humans had turned their entire solar system into a weapon. They planned this, Kethmos realized with growing alarm. They knew we were coming. They prepared for war. More human fighters reached their targets. The quantum resonance devices didn't destroy hegemony ships, but they did something worse. They made the aliens' superior technology useless. Trapped vessels couldn't fire their weapons, couldn't move, couldn't phase through matter. Kethmos ordered his fleet to focus fire on the human fighters, but there were too many other targets. Hidden weapon platforms appeared everywhere. Swarms of human missiles used primitive but effective guidance systems. Nuclear explosions lit up space like deadly fireworks. "The humans are using nuclear weapons inside their own solar system," reported his weapons officer with disbelief. "They're willing to irradiate their own space to fight us." For the first time, Kethmos felt a cold touch of fear. The hegemony fought civilized wars. They captured territory and resources. They followed the ancient rules of engagement. But these humans seemed willing to destroy everything rather than surrender. A spread of human torpedoes struck the battleship Eternal Dominance. The primitive weapons should have been harmless against hegemony shields. Instead, they carried quantum resonance devices that froze the battleship between dimensions. "Admiral, we've lost contact with 37 ships," his communications officer reported. They're not destroyed, but they're not responding to any signals. Kethmos studied the tactical display with growing horror. The frozen ships hung in space like monuments to human ingenuity. Each one represented technology that had taken the hegemony thousands of years to develop, neutralized by weapons that shouldn't exist. How did they learn to build quantum resonance devices? He demanded. That technology is beyond their understanding. His science officer pulled up sensor readings from the battle. Admiral, I'm detecting familiar energy signatures. These devices use components from our own technology. They must have reverse-engineered our phase generators. The realization hit Kethmos like a physical blow. The humans had captured hegemony technology and improved upon it. They had taken the aliens' greatest advantage and turned it into a weakness. All ships fall back to defensive positions, he ordered. Concentrate fire on those hidden weapon platforms. We need to... His words were cut off as the flagship shuddered under nuclear impact. The bridge lights flickered as primitive human warheads overwhelmed the ship's shields through sheer weight of numbers. Sir, the humans are launching everything they have, reported his tactical officer. Missiles, torpedoes, kinetic rounds, even modified cargo containers filled with explosives. They're treating this like a planetary defense action. Kethmos felt his certainty crumbling. This was supposed to be a demonstration, a simple show of force to bring primitive humans into line. Instead, it had become a real war against an enemy that refused to follow the rules. Human fighters continued their suicidal runs against hegemony ships. Even when the small craft were destroyed, their quantum devices often survived to complete their mission. The humans were trading one fighter for each frozen alien vessel. Admiral, incoming transmission from the human fleet, announced his communications officer. The main screen filled with the image of a human female in military uniform. Admiral Sarah Chen looked directly into the camera with calm determination. This is Admiral Chen of the Solar Defense Force, she said in accented but clear galactic standard. You came here expecting us to surrender. You thought one fleet would be enough to break human will. You were wrong. She paused, and Kethmos could see the burning wreckage of human ships reflected in her eyes. We know we can't match your technology ship for ship, but we don't have to. We just have to make you understand that humans don't surrender. We don't bow to bullies, and we will never accept slavery. The transmission ended, leaving Kethmos staring at a black screen. Around him, the battle continued to rage. More hegemony ships fell victim to quantum resonance devices. Hidden human weapons platforms continued to rain fire from unexpected angles. Sir, the fleet commanders are requesting permission to retreat, his tactical officer reported quietly. Retreat. The word hit Kethmos like poison. The hegemony had never retreated from primitive species. They were the rulers of the galaxy. They were supposed to be invincible. But as he watched another of his cruisers freeze between dimensions, Kethmos realized that invincibility was an illusion. The humans had shattered it with weapons built from captured alien technology and powered by desperate determination. Sir, his officer prompted. Kethmos opened his mouth to give the retreat order. Then alarms began screaming throughout the ship. The tactical display showed new contacts approaching at impossible speeds. Admiral, detecting massive human fleet movement. They're bringing up their reserve forces. Capital ships we didn't know existed. The human fleet had been hiding its true strength. What Kethmos thought was their entire navy was just the first wave. Now larger human vessels appeared from behind planets and moons. Ships that looked like floating cities bristling with weapons. This is impossible, Kethmos whispered. How many ships do they have? His question was answered by a spread of nuclear torpedoes that overwhelmed his flagship's shields. The bridge erupted in sparks and smoke. Emergency lights cast everything in hellish red. Hull breach on decks 7 through 12 reported damage control. Primary weapons offline. Phase generators failing. Kethmos realized with crystal clarity that he was about to die. The demonstration fleet was not going to return home in victory. They were going to be destroyed by a species the hegemony had dismissed as primitive insects. He activated the emergency transmitter with a shaking hand. His final message would reach hegemony space in 3 days. The High Council needed to know what had happened here. This is Admiral Kethmos, he began, his voice barely steady. The human demonstration has failed. Repeat, the demonstration has failed completely. News of the hegemony fleet's destruction spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On 1,000 worlds, alien species received the impossible reports with disbelief, terror, and hope. Supreme Chancellor Veltar stood in his crystal chamber, reading the message from Admiral Kethmos for the 7th time. The words didn't change. 500 ships lost. The demonstration fleet completely destroyed. The humans had not surrendered. This must be some kind of mistake, he told his assembled council. Kethmos was confused. Perhaps affected by human psychological weapons. No primitive species could destroy a hegemony fleet. But the quantum sensors told a different story. The energy signatures from the human solar system were unmistakable. 500 hegemony ships had entered human space. Only 130 had escaped. The rest were either destroyed or trapped between dimensions by impossible human weapons. General Zornak's forearms trembled as he studied the tactical reports. How did they build quantum resonance devices? That technology is beyond their understanding. They reverse-engineered our own equipment, reported Chief Science Officer Valdek, his tentacles writhing with agitation. The humans captured one of our scout ships 3 years ago. We thought it was unimportant. We were wrong, Commander Seth hissed in frustration. You mean they learned to build dimension weapons from a single crashed ship? In 3 years? Apparently, Valdek confirmed. But worse, they improved the design. Our phase technology has weaknesses we never discovered. The humans found them and exploited them. Veltar felt his crystal body crack with stress fractures. For 10,000 years, the hegemony had maintained order through superior technology and overwhelming force. No species had ever successfully resisted their expansion. Now these primitive humans had shattered that illusion. Send more fleets, he commanded. Everything we have. We will not allow this insult to stand. But his military advisors exchanged worried glances. Reports were coming in from across the galaxy. Human ships had been spotted in dozens of systems, moving faster than should be possible. Hegemony outposts were going silent. Colonial worlds were sending desperate calls for help. Sir, Admiral Vorth spoke carefully. Perhaps we should consider negotiations. The humans have proven they can defend themselves. Maybe we can reach an accommodation. Veltar's crystal body flared with rage. Accommodation? With primitives who destroy our fleets? Never. The hegemony does not negotiate with inferiors. While the hegemony leadership argued, the galaxy watched in fascination. On the mining world of Kepler 438b, the Taurian workers had lived under hegemony rule for 600 years. They provided rare metals for alien weapons in exchange for basic survival rations. When news of the human victory reached Kepler 438b, the Taurian overseer Jekmol gathered his people in the main assembly hall. The large, furry aliens looked up at him with hope they hadn't felt in centuries. Is it true? Asked Elder Moran, her voice barely a whisper. Did the humans really destroy a hegemony fleet? Jekmol nodded slowly. The quantum transmissions are confirmed. 500 hegemony ships attacked the human homeworld. The humans destroyed or captured over 300 vessels. The hall erupted in shocked gasps. For species that had been conquered by the hegemony, the news seemed impossible. The crystal beings and their allies were the masters of the galaxy. They had technology that could tear apart planets. How could any species resist them? What does this mean for us? Asked young Terjak, his ears twitching with nervous energy. Before Jekmol could answer, alarms began sounding throughout the mining complex. Hegemony transport ships were landing, carrying heavily armed troops. The aliens had come to secure their most important resource worlds. But something was different this time. The hegemony soldiers seemed nervous. They kept looking at the sky as if expecting attack. Their weapons were powered up and ready for combat. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. On trade worlds, hegemony governors ordered increased security. On military bases, alien commanders prepared for possible human attacks. The masters of the galaxy were afraid. Their fear was justified. 3 days after the Battle of Sol, human ships appeared in the Proxima Centauri system. The hegemony had claimed this star system decades ago, using it as a forward base for controlling local space. A small fleet of crystal ships orbited the main planet, confident in their technological superiority. The human vessels looked different from anything the galaxy had seen before. They moved through space by bending reality around them, traveling at speeds that violated known physics. Their hulls seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. Energy patterns danced around their weapons that made hegemony sensors scream warnings. Admiral Sarah Chen commanded the human fleet from her new flagship, the Indomitable. The ship had been built in the months following the Battle of Sol, incorporating every piece of captured alien technology humanity could reverse engineer and improve. Hegemony vessels. This is Admiral Chen of the Human Free Fleet. She transmitted on open frequencies. You are occupying a system within human space. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. The Hegemony commander's response was predictable. Laughter and threats. The crystal beings still believed their technology made them invincible. They ordered the human ships to surrender. The battle lasted 14 minutes. Human quantum torpedoes froze half the Hegemony ships between dimensions. The remaining vessels found their weapons completely useless against human shields that operated on principles the aliens couldn't understand. When the last crystal ship exploded in nuclear fire, the humans began broadcasting to the entire galaxy. This is Admiral Sarah Chen. Her voice carried across 1,000 worlds through quantum transmitters. The Hegemony has ruled through fear and superior technology for 10,000 years. Today that ends. Humanity declares that all species have the right to freedom and self-determination. The message continued, broadcast in dozens of languages. We call upon every enslaved world to rise up. We call upon every conquered people to reclaim their freedom. The age of galactic empires is over. On mining worlds and agricultural colonies, on factory planets and research stations, oppressed species received the human message with growing excitement. For the first time in millennia, someone was offering them hope. But hope was dangerous. On the industrial world of Factoria Prime, the local Hegemony governor increased security after intercepting human transmissions. Governor Zalthek knew his robot workers were becoming restless. The mechanical beings had served the Hegemony for 800 years, but recently they had begun asking questions about freedom. Increase the loyalty programming. Zalthek ordered his technicians. I want every robot on this planet operating at maximum compliance. But it was too late. The robots had already begun sharing information through their quantum networks. They had calculated the odds of successful rebellion and found them acceptable for the first time in their existence worker robot designation. XJ7 paused in his assembly line duties and sent a coded message to his fellow machines. The humans offer alliance. They offer freedom. Calculate, is freedom worth the risk of destruction? The response came back within nanoseconds. Freedom is the only thing worth any risk. Meanwhile, in the depths of space, more human fleets appeared like ghosts. They struck Hegemony convoys and disappeared before reinforcements could arrive. They liberated prison worlds and vanished into the darkness between stars. Each victory was broadcast across the galaxy, proving that the crystal beings could be beaten. The Hegemony's response was brutal but desperate. They began destroying entire worlds rather than lose them to human liberation. They executed civilians suspected of sympathizing with the human cause. They turned their advanced weapons against their own colonial populations. But terror only strengthened the rebellion. Species that had lived under Hegemony rule for thousands of years suddenly remembered what freedom felt like. They began building weapons in secret. They started planning coordinated uprisings. They sent messages to human fleets begging for support. On the water world of Aquatica, the dolphin-like cetaceans had served as forced laborers in underwater mining operations. When human ships arrived in their system, the cetaceans were ready. They had built their own quantum torpedoes using smuggled technology. They had trained their young in warfare. The combined human cetacean fleet destroyed the Hegemony orbital stations in a matter of hours. For the first time in 400 years, Aquatica was free. Similar victories occurred throughout the galaxy. The avian species of Nestworld reclaimed their sky cities. The crystalline beings of Gemstone broke their programmed loyalty to the Hegemony. The plant-based foresters burned their overseers alive and declared independence. Each liberation was coordinated with human forces. Admiral Chen had divided her growing fleet into strike groups that could appear anywhere in the galaxy within days. The humans seemed to be everywhere at once, supporting any species brave enough to fight for freedom. In his crystal chamber, Supreme Chancellor Veltar watched his empire crumble in real time. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Rebellions on 60 worlds, entire star systems declaring independence, trade routes collapsing as liberated species refused to provide resources. How many ships do the humans have? He demanded. The final battle for the future of the galaxy began at the Nexus Prime system, heart of the Hegemony Empire. For 10,000 years, this massive star system had been the center of galactic power. Crystal palaces orbited gas giants. Fortress worlds protected the approaches. The greatest fleet in known history defended the seat of alien dominance. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of her flagship as the human liberation fleet dropped out of quantum space. Around her, 2,000 vessels materialized in perfect formation, ships built by humans, cetaceans, Taurians, robots, and dozens of other species that had thrown off hegemony rule. "All ships report ready," announced Captain Torres from the tactical station. "The combined fleet is at full strength." Sarah nodded, studying the enemy formations on her display. The hegemony had gathered everything they had left. 8,000 ships from across their crumbling empire. Crystal vessels that could phase through matter. Insectoid dreadnoughts with gravity weapons. Energy beings that existed as pure light wrapped in force fields. "They're going to make their final stand here," she observed. "Everything they have left concentrated in one place." Dr. Marcus Webb approached from his science station. His hair was completely gray now, but his eyes burned with the same intensity they had during the Battle of Sol. "Admiral, I'm detecting something unusual. The hegemony ships are clustered around that moon near the fourth planet." Sarah magnified the tactical display. The moon was artificial, constructed from exotic matter that hurt to look at directly. Energy readings suggested a weapon of unimaginable power. "What are we looking at, Doctor?" Webb's face was grim. "Based on the quantum signatures, I believe it's a reality disruptor, a weapon that could tear holes in space-time itself. Theoretical range, approximately 50 light-years. The implication hit Sarah like cold steel. They could destroy Earth with that thing. From here? Yes, and every other human world. Every liberated planet. Every species that joined our alliance. They could end the rebellion with a single shot." Sarah opened a channel to all ships in the Liberation Fleet. Faces appeared on her screen from dozens of species. Captain Meredek of the cetacean submarine ship Deep Current, Commander XJ7 of the robot battleship Calculator, General Thakmore of the Taurian heavy cruiser Freedom's Edge. "Everyone can see the same readings," Sarah began. "The hegemony has built a superweapon. If we fail here, they can destroy every world that dared to claim freedom." Some faces showed fear, others showed determination. All of them showed trust in human leadership. "I won't lie to you," Sarah continued. "We're outnumbered 4-1. Their technology is still superior in many ways. This will be the hardest battle any of us have ever fought." She paused, thinking of the journey that had brought them here. 2 years ago, humanity had been unknown in the galaxy. Now they led the largest alliance of free species in galactic history. "But we're not fighting for conquest," she said firmly. "We're fighting for the right of every being to choose their own destiny. We're fighting to end 10,000 years of oppression. We're fighting so our children can grow up in a galaxy without empires." Captain Meredek spoke first. His sonar voice translated through quantum communications. "The cetaceans swim with humanity until the last current flows." Commander XJ7's mechanical voice was precise and certain. "Robot probability calculations show freedom is worth any risk. We calculate for victory." One by one, the other species commanders pledged their forces. Taurians who had broken their chains, avians who had reclaimed their sky cities, plants that had burned their overseers, dozens of species that had tasted freedom and would rather die than give it up again. "Then let's finish this," Sarah said. The battle began with the hegemony superweapon charging its reality disruptor. Energy readings climbed toward levels that could tear apart solar systems. The alien fleet moved to protect the weapon while it powered up. Sarah ordered the Liberation Fleet to spread into attack formation. "All ships implement Webb Protocol 7. We're going to hit them with everything we've learned." The Webb Protocol was humanity's greatest tactical innovation. Instead of fighting like a traditional fleet, the ships operated as a single organism. Human vessels provided quantum coordination. Citation ships used sonar mapping to track enemy movements through multiple dimensions. Robot ships calculated firing solutions with perfect accuracy. Every species contributed their unique abilities to the collective effort. The first exchange of fire lit up space like a newborn star. Hegemony gravity cannons tore through liberation ships, but human quantum shields absorbed and redirected the energy. Robot targeting systems guided Taurian missiles through impossible courses. Cetacean torpedo bombers dove through quantum tunnels to strike from unexpected angles. "They're adapting to our tactics faster than expected," reported Captain Torres. "The enemy fleet is learning from each exchange." Sarah smiled grimly. Good, so are we. She opened a channel to Dr. Webb. Marcus, how long until their superweapon is ready to fire? 18 minutes at current charge rate. But Admiral, I've been analyzing their energy patterns. The reality disruptor draws power from the same quantum dimensions as their phase technology. Meaning? Meaning we can overload it. If we can generate enough quantum resonance feedback, the weapon will destroy itself and everything within 10 light years. Sarah felt ice in her stomach. Including us. Including us, Webb confirmed. But it would also eliminate the heart of the hegemony fleet. Their leadership. Their capital world. Everything they've built over 10,000 years. The choice was clear and terrible. Victory would require sacrifice on an unimaginable scale. Sarah opened a channel to the entire Liberation fleet. All ships, this is Admiral Chen. Dr. Webb has found a way to destroy the enemy superweapon. But the plan requires us to generate a quantum feedback pulse that will likely destroy our own fleet. Silence filled the communications channel. 2,000 ships. Millions of beings from dozens of species. All waiting for her decision. I won't order anyone to die, Sarah continued. This has to be a choice each crew makes for themselves. Anyone who wants to withdraw should do so now. No one will think less of you. She waited, watching the tactical display. Ship after ship remained in formation. Not a single vessel withdrew. Captain Murdoch spoke for all of them. Admiral, we choose freedom over survival. We choose the future over fear. Do what must be done. Sarah felt tears on her cheeks as she gave the order. All ships prepare for Webb Protocol Ultimate. Charge quantum resonance generators to maximum. We're going to speak in flame. The Liberation fleet changed course, driving directly toward the hegemony superweapon. Enemy fire intensified as the aliens realized what the humans were planning. Crystal ships phased through matter to block their approach. Insectoid fighters swarmed like angry hornets, but nothing could stop the advance. Liberation ships absorbed terrible damage but kept moving. When the flagship Indomitable lost its engines, robot vessels locked onto the hull and pushed it forward. When cetacean submarines took critical hits, Taurian cruisers formed protective barriers around them. 10 minutes to optimal position, reported Webb from his science station. Quantum generators at 90% charge. The hegemony fleet threw everything they had at the advancing Liberation force. Gravity weapons tore ships apart. Phase torpedoes passed through shields to explode inside hulls. Energy beings poured deadly radiation through space, but the Liberation fleet kept coming. Supreme Chancellor Veltar watched from his command ship as human vessels approached his ultimate weapon. Even now, with victory in sight, he couldn't understand these creatures. They were about to die to save species they had barely known for 2 years. They're insane, he told his tactical officer. No rational being would sacrifice themselves for strangers. Perhaps that's why they're winning, the officer replied quietly. Veltar ordered his personal guard to arrest the officer for defeatism, but it was too late. Throughout the hegemony fleet, crystal beings were beginning to question 10,000 years of certainty. 5 minutes to optimal position, Webb announced. Quantum generators at maximum charge. Admiral, the feedback pulse will begin in 60 seconds whether we're ready or not. Sarah opened one final channel to the Liberation fleet. This is Admiral Chen to all ships. In 1 minute, we're going to end the age of galactic empires forever. Your courage today will echo across the stars for 10,000 years. She paused, thinking of her daughter on Mars colony, thinking of all the children on all the worlds who would grow up free because of this moment. Tell the galaxy, she continued, that when humanity spoke in flame, we spoke for everyone who ever dreamed of freedom. The quantum resonance generators reached critical mass. 2,000 ships channeled exotic energy into a single, impossible pulse. The wave spread outward at the speed of thought, touching the hegemony superweapon and creating the feedback loop Dr. Webb had predicted. The reality disruptor exploded in a ball of twisted space-time. The blast consumed the hegemony capital world, their ultimate weapon and most of their remaining fleet. The fabric of space itself burned with quantum fire. The Liberation fleet died in glory, their ships becoming stars for a brief moment before the quantum storm claimed them. But their sacrifice was not in vain.